Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. We're going to be going over Autodesk University 2020 virtual setup last week. Just basically going over what they talked about, what was the big things, and what's come from it. So a little housekeeping. Everyone's going to be on mute for the duration of the presentation. If you have any questions, you need to say anything, definitely pop that into the questions box. I'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the presentation. If there's something I can answer while I'm going over stuff, I definitely will. Otherwise, I might have to hold it to the end and I'll hit it during the Q&A. But anything you need to say, just pop it into the questions. I'll keep an eye. Now, about Microdesk. Microdesk was founded in 1994 as an Autodesk reseller with a simple mission. We wanted to assist architecture, engineering, and construction firms and owners, all with improving workflows and integration project delivery technologies. 25 years later, we're still holding to that mission. We're much more than a reseller, though. We're definitely more of a partner. We actually work with our clients. We provide a lot of different services, and we make sure that we understand what is going on, both from the technology, the deliverable side, and what people really need. We have a team of over 230 AECO consultants with a background in the actual disciplines that they work with, whether that's our software developers or our tech team. I worked as an architect for 10 years before moving here. Now, some of the hottest topics today that we're focusing on are globalization, urbanization, and sustainability. So we see urbanization studies suggesting that we're going to be building about 114 cities the size of Boston over the next 30 years. So at Microdesk, we try to focus on preparing our clients for those demands and working with the industry leaders to combine our vision and passion for sustainability to meet those demands. Now, in terms of what we do to help our clients, we help all across the board, from early on design into construction and into operations. We work with agencies like Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, the Denver Airport, and large companies and clients like Columbia University, just to name a few. And different services that we provide, we actually do typical visualization services, whether it's still renderings or something more integrated like AR and VR. We do technology assessments. We do coordination and production services. So again, our team has a background in the industry. We know what actually needs to get done, and we work with our clients to provide those services to make sure that they're as successful as possible. And we work with a large assortment of different partners to actually leverage their tools and technology. We're a platinum partner of Autodesk. And we also work with a lot of other companies like Esri, Eagle Point, Panzura. We're a new partner of Unity as well for the game engine and usage for visualization, coordination, that augmented and virtual reality we mentioned before. So we work with a lot of different partners to bring solutions to our clients. Now, doing the presentation today is going to be myself. My name is Peter Marchese. I'm the Senior Technology Evangelist at Microdesk. I've got over 25 years of experience in the industry. I focus these days on emerging technologies, things like BIM 360, the different cloud services, Unity, Format, UAVs, AR, VR. I work with the new tools to make sure that they actually are useful as opposed to just something that's new, and then work to develop the actual workflows to take the best advantage of that with both my team and our clients. Now, today's presentation is going to be on AU. So what we're going to be doing is going over the overall setup of AU 2020, how things were done, going over some of the announcements like the big reveals, the overall AU experience, and some of the sessions, and again, answering any questions as they come across. So AU 2020 was a very different experience for everybody this year. So in the past, when we would go to AU, we would typically see these huge auditoriums, multiple screens so everybody can see it, and we'd really get a good idea of what's going on. Now, in this time, completely changed. So rather than going and traveling to Las Vegas and having this kind of a view, most of us had this kind of a view. So this is the first time that Autodesk University was completely virtual. They've toyed with it a little bit over the last few years, having like certain sessions be done live, like the keynotes, but this is the first time it was completely done that way. And a lot of that is because it's not safe to actually travel or have large groups. Now, granted, a lot of our clients are starting to get back to the workplace. They're starting to come in and be able to work back in the traditional office. However, a lot of people are still working remote at home. So the slogan this year from Autodesk in terms of how they want to go about everything really does hit a nerve. The reimagine possible, the ability to actually say, okay, well, what are we doing now and how can we reimagine it? How can we make it better, more efficient? How can we do things that we couldn't do before? And a lot of us this year have actually already done that in terms of how can we work from home? How can we coordinate with other people effectively without having, our office or our network? So a lot of things kind of go along that route. Now, in terms of the announcements that Autodesk put out, the big ones were around the Autodesk Construction Cloud, Spacemaker, and Project Tandem. Now, on the Construction Cloud, over the last few years, Autodesk has been adding to its portfolio of cloud services to aid in the construction, the design, the operations of projects. So if you look at the Construction Cloud right now, it includes tools like BIM 360, PlanGrid, Building Connected, Assemble, Pipe, and also Autodesk Construction Cloud Connect. Now, all these tools are great, and they have varying levels of integration with each other. But one of the things that they've been trying to focus on is getting to that unified platform. They don't want to have a bunch of silos with your data. And in some of these tools, like the Connect service, specifically is done so that way you can make those connections. But what they're looking to do now is to have a group of tools that, you notice there, it's dropping the BIM 360 moniker, and these are going to be the unified tools. So you're going to have Autodesk Docs, Build, BIM Collaborate, Autodesk Quantity, and a new mobile app called PlanGrid Build mobile app. We'll see how the names hold up. Now, a big part of this is to make sure that in terms of the next generation of tools, that they truly do have a common data environment. Now, in terms of the build application, what this is really going to be is it's an evolution of the best components of the main two tools that they have right now. So you've got your BIM 360 Build, BIM 360 Docs, and PlanGrid. So there's a good amount of overlap between those. And in this case, you've got the Docs component, which is an evolution of the BIM 360 Docs. So you're taking all the best pieces of each one. So PlanGrid has some really great tools in terms of managing views. The OCR is great. The sheet management is great. When you're doing checklists, you can actually bring in a PDF, so it includes all the graphics and forms for your checklists. All of those things are coming right over to here. All the things of BIM 360 in terms of handling your issues, handling the tracking, the logins, working with other elements. The cost component, which was an add-on in BIM 360, is going to be a part of the build component. So you're taking all the different pieces that were great and merging them together to get the most out of them. So you'll still have all your permissions. You'll still have the ability to track checklists, manage your issues, and also have status, the status reports of what's going on. So what you can actually do is lay out and say, okay, what is this area? What's happening? What's the status of that location of the project? So not just having the status of an issue that I've assigned, but of a portion of the project. Have they done the installation of this? Have they finished the punch list here? I can set that up. So you've got your Autodesk BIM 360, you got Autodesk BIM 360 Docs, now going to be called Autodesk Docs. It's an evolution of that. It's a new thing. And on top of that is going to be Build, Quantify. So Quantify is a cloud-based service, again, working off of the same content that is going to be inside of Build and Docs. And it can be used for 2D as well as 3D quantification. So if you've ever used Assemble or Navisworks Manage, or in the old days, QTO to do your takeoffs, those are great tools, but all of those, with the exception of Assemble, were all local. I had to install something. And with Assemble, that's an awesome tool, but it doesn't have a direct connection with the current BIM 360. So you still have sort of a little bit of an issue of, okay, well, my data resides in multiple locations. So again, we're focusing on that common data environment, and I'm able to have the ability to do my takeoffs in that data environment with these tools, regardless of whether it's 2D or 3D. And I can go back and forth depending on what content I have in that project. So that's going to be Autodesk Quantify. Now, the other one is going to be called Autodesk BIM Collaborate. Now, this is actually going to have a pro version and a standard version. So the BIM Collaborate is sort of an evolution of two of the current applications or services, Coordinate and Design. So anybody who owns those will have access to the next generation of these. So Coordinate, think of the tools that you have in Glue or BIM 360 Coordinate. So where I can do clash detection, I can merge multiple models together, I can see what's happening and make sure that we're assigning those issues to the right people to correct these collaboration issues. The BIM 360 Design users are going to be inside of BIM Collaborate Pro. All those features and more are going to be moving towards this. So if you want to be able to work in different locations, you're using Plant 3D, Civil 3D, Revit. I want to have a project timeline to track when things have been updated or issued. All of that is going to be making its way to this. And again, we're truly working in a common data environment now, as opposed to the little silos that we had before between things like Assemble and BIM 360 or other components like that. So we're really bringing everything together from this. Now, key things from this. Existing subscribers are going to have access to the unified platforms moving forward. So if you owned BIM 360 docs, you're going to get docs. If you own BIM 360 Build, you're going to get Build, so on and so forth. Now, the other great thing about this is if you own the Autodesk collection, the AEC collection, you're automatically going to be getting docs with those seats too. So you're going to have more access than you actually had previously. Now, one of the things that has definitely come up is, okay, well, what are we talking about? What are we calling these things? Typically, when we've been talking about, say, BIM 360 or the Construction Cloud, you've got the classic. So if you're working in Glue or the old school Field or even BIM 360 Team for the old C4R projects, those are always referred to as classic. The tools that we're using these days has always been referred to as next gen. So you've got Docs, Design, Build. Now, a few of us have jokingly referred to what's coming as the next gen, but the reality is it's going to be called the unified platform, because that's really what we're going for. We're going for that common data environment. We're trying to make sure that everything truly is unified and that we're taking the best of all the different things that's available from Autodesk and making sure that it truly is a single thing. So it's making sure that regardless of where you are, what your data is doing, you're going to have access to the tools that you need. Now, one of the other big announcements was Autodesk's purchase of Spacemaker. So if you've never heard of Spacemaker before, what this tool actually is it's allowing you to make better decisions faster. It's something that is specifically set up for urban design, but can do much more than that. And if you've ever seen any of the generative design tools that are available, whether it's from Autodesk or other tools playing with things like Grasshopper or the generative design for Revit, this takes in all of those aspects. So I can iterate on a project. I can say, where is my project? What are the areas and the bounds? What kind of things am I working on? I can look at different design options. I can bring in things that we used to have in an old tool called Visari. I can look at how it affects with the wind. But it allows me to bring in all these different things and iterate very quickly, see how things might affect the overall project, the planning, the layout, the usage of that site. I can put in all this information very, very quickly, work with it, and then when I'm done, I have a report of all the different options that it came up with and how those options can affect my plan and program. So it makes it very easy for me to design with that. So that's a Norway-based 115-person team that Autodesk is now going to have access to and really leverage to enable our partners to work better, faster, and work through many more decisions. Now, the other big announcement was Autodesk Tandem. So now, recently, Autodesk became a founding member of the Digital Twin Consortium. So that was actually back in October. Now, what Tandem is it's essentially a cloud-based digital twin tool. So we're going to be hearing more and more as this goes forward. But it's a purpose-built tool specifically allowing owners and operators to get insight into their projects. So rather than losing all that data as it goes through, so you've collected data during design, you've collected data during construction, and now I want to leverage all that in operations. This makes it easier for me to actually be able to look at my model, see all the data and information that's inside of there, and very easily navigate to it, track it, and work with it. Now, we've had some features that did this before, but it was never anywhere near this fluid or this accessible. Because outside of just being able to view the models and the data inside of that, I'm also able to pull in that data and view it with real-time results. So if you're doing things like Internet of Things, and I want to start tracking what's happening, I'm able to actually take that data, that model, and start visualizing what's happening based on a timeline, whether that's through the day, through the month or year, what information am I actually tracking? And that's going to be Autodesk Tandem. Now, Autodesk announces a lot of things at AU. Those three were the main three that I thought were the most important for a lot of our clients. Now, other announcements that they came out with, Revit is going to be supporting IFC4 compliance. So the MEP components are the next aspect of that they're going to be supporting. ISO 19650 compliance is supposed to be coming in January. There were some updates to subscriptions. So essentially, because of the pandemic and the way things have been affected, Autodesk is extending that the multi-year licenses for another year. So while they are accelerating the rollout of cloud-based subscription tools, they are actually making sure that people have a little bit more flexibility. So they're pushing that out another year. Now, other things here, the Autodesk Certification Program. Autodesk has already had a certification program for a while now, but what they're looking at doing is having more role-based certifications. So like a Revit structure certification, generative design certification. So rather than, do you know Revit and that's it? Okay, what aspects of Revit? What aspects of tools? So different things like that. Now, a couple of things here are more on the media and entertainment, but I think they also are very interesting for other disciplines. So one of them is the ability to have generative schedules in Shotgun. So Shotgun's a tool for project management and data delivery for media and entertainment. So think of it like this, BIM 360 and soon to be the unified platform enables all project stakeholders to access the data and the files that they need. That would be Shotgun for media and entertainment. One of the cool things they have there is the ability to easily update your schedule. So you're looking at a Gantt chart there. And as you manipulate things and change things, it auto updates for you based on your rules. So that's something I find very interesting and I'm going to be looking into for other aspects. Another aspect here was Maya for the ability to streamline the ability to take scan data like point clouds and streamline that into actual model geometry that can be utilized. And like anything else, tools are just a tool. How you utilize it or leverage it's the important thing. So even if these things are designed for media and entertainment, they have ramifications, I think, for AEC as well. And they can find themselves useful in a lot of different situations. Now, outside of the announcements, there were a lot of things at AU that was virtual that I think was really interesting and bodes well for the future. And one of those was the answer bar. So what Autodesk did was they actually created a service called the answer bar that was available during AU for anybody who had questions. And it was across a large amount of industries and tools. And the other great thing about this was it was also live. You had a question, you logged into a Zoom chat, you asked what you were looking for, and they assigned you to the person, and then we'd look to help you. And it wasn't just English, it was across time zones, it was across languages. So anybody who had a question or was looking for help on something, they had an outlet for you to easily join in and ask. Now, one of my favorite things about AU has always been the idea exchange. You would go over there and pick one of the things that was open and say, hey, I'm really good with this. I'd love to give you some feedback, or I have questions on this. Can I help? Now, since we're not in person, we don't have that, but we do have that online. The idea exchange, you can go there. Similar to the answer bar, you can choose which sessions are available or that you'd like to give feedback on, and then you can help with customer research. Now, one of the things here that I wanted to point out that I don't think a lot of people saw was the impact cards over here. When you go there and click on that, you're going to find a PDF with a lot of information in there. So in this case, you're going to have things that are already out there, like what can I do with the command line in AutoCAD Mobile, as well as things that are actually coming soon. So this is in development. That's that ISO 19650 that I mentioned. So it has a lot of information across a lot of different tools, and some of it's already out, some of it's coming, and it helps you stay on top of what's happening and also be able to provide the feedback that you have for Autodesk. So we know you use the tools, we know you know how to use the tools. We also know you know what you want the tool to do in the future. This is your chance to tell Autodesk. Now, from there, I mentioned the certifications. So you weren't able to take the certification online during AU, but they do have a setup where you can actually go for this and sign up and get a discount. And again, Autodesk is going to be working with certifications to actually modify how those are done and also offer more opportunities and kinds of certifications to take. Now, big thing of AU has always been the expo. Being able to walk around the show floor, see new things, talk to people, ask questions, and get an understanding of some cool use cases of the actual technology. Now, while that wasn't available to us this year, the expo did show up in a virtualized form. And basically what this was a lot of Autodesk partners that might typically have a booth, having a place where they can post up information. So if you're curious about a technology, you want to get a little bit more information, or you are trying to get information on something, but you don't know who to reach out to. All of these cards under the expo are places where the different partners can post information, videos, downloads, And they also have locations where you can figure out, okay, I want to ask about sales of this. I want to have a technical question. All those people are listed under there, so that way you can reach out to them and get your questions answered. So there was still at least an opportunity to, work with the other companies and get more information. I know a lot of people would typically go there to find out what's coming or to ask questions of a human as opposed to, typing it through an email. This is at least a middle ground because a lot of these are setting up for Zoom calls, so you can do it face-to-face still. Now, one of the nice things from a stress relief was always the AU Pet Lounge. Again, we don't have that this year, but there was actually a virtual version of that, which I thought was really cool. So the Pets of AU page has a lot of images of people that are working from home or attending AU with their, technical pets. And then the other aspect of going into AU, always the swag. I didn't see a way to download a backpack through this, but they do have backgrounds, files that you can 3D print, and also some keyboard shortcuts that you can download. And there was a neat little Autodesk arcade where they have different versions of games that are already out there, sort of rebranded for our industry. And another aspect, for those of us who have been to AU and a lot of other conferences, we might have a collection of badges from speaking or attending. So again, we didn't physically go there, but Autodesk was looking out for people while supplies last, and they did not last long. They actually set up that if you wanted a badge for this year, you could sign up for that and they would send you one. Now, the real meat of a lot of AU is the sessions. So this year, that was no different. There were a lot of sessions available and a lot of theater talks available. All of these go into different information and all of these are on demand whenever you want to see them. So in previous AUs, a lot of the sessions, but not all of them, would be available for you to watch whenever you wanted to. Some might only have the PowerPoint or as a PDF maybe, and some downloads that you can have to go through it, but you wouldn't be able to listen to that speaker when you wanted to. That's not the case this year. All of these are available whenever you want. There's a great search term that you can go into and say, I want to find by this speaker, I want to find in this industry. And if you find one that you like, what you're going to see on the bottom there is it's going to try recommending you different topics based on the one that you're looking at. Now, with the sheer amount of sessions that are on offer, and many of them offered by people that I work with or I'm friends with, I don't want to go into saying this one's great but not that one. All the ones that I've been hearing about have been pretty good. It's been a little awkward this year just not being in person, and some of the sessions that were offered that were in person were more of a Q&A, but everything is available online. You can see it whenever you want to. The best thing that I would recommend is going in there and bookmarking as many sessions as you find interesting. And then whenever you have free time, you're working at home, working at work, you have a break on lunch, you can go there and watch the videos that you want. Some of which you can actually change the speed of the video. So if you're trying to get through, a 45-minute long presentation and you don't have that much time, crank it up to like 1.5 and you can get through it much faster. Slow it down for the parts that are interesting, or turn on the closed captioning, because a lot of the videos, like the keynotes, were available in multiple languages. Now, in terms of AU this year, there were a lot of different things that were awesome. They came out, there were stories. Autodesk talked about the Nightingale project, which was a fast-track project overseas that took a building and set it up for a COVID hospital. So like, how could we coordinate in, things that typically might take weeks or months in days? And it was very moving because it was very appropriate to this year. It was taking advantage of technology, taking advantage of a real problem that needed to be solved and showing how it could be done with multiple participants all over the place. Unlike last year or any other year, this year was completely free. And Autodesk had expected about 65,000 people to register. What they got was over 100,000 people. So over 35,000 were on the keynote as it was being streamed live. And those sessions I mentioned, there were over 750 classes and sessions for people to attend. So with the amount of things that was going on, with the amount of other things happening in 2020, this was actually a really nice bright spot. There were community areas where people could get online and chat. There were a lot of people active on social media, sharing ideas and going over things and sharing topics and classes. So it was nice to see everybody come together virtually, even though we couldn't come together the way that we used to. And hopefully next year, we'll be able to see this view again in front of everybody sharing ideas and knowledge. But until then, I'd say that 2020 was actually a success for AU. They took a problem that they had, took it virtual, took advantage of all the technology and tools, and made sure that the knowledge was available for everybody. Are there any questions that anybody has? Yeah, cool. I see a few people are typing. While people are typing, I'm just going to let everybody know we have a couple of upcoming events. So coming up on November 30th, we're going to be having part 3 of our sustainability and systems analysis presentation. Coming up on December 4th, we actually have another presentation for getting ROI on project documentation with Assemble. So I believe Mallory is going to be going over that one. That should be really good, really interesting. Yes. So a question here, is this webinar going to be recorded? Yes, it actually has been recorded, and it should get posted to the Microdesk YouTube channel not too long after this. Another question, what do we think is going to happen with AU next year? Well, some of this is conjecture because I don't know where the world is going to be next year. But let's say that everything is fine and conferences and large gatherings is fine and allowable by this time next year. My expectation is that, like a lot of processes and workflows, it had to be changed this year. But when things go back to a state of normalcy, it's not going to go back completely. There were some really good benefits to come from people moving digital, moving virtual. So I think aspects of AU that were shown to be great, having an answer bar that would work all times, regardless of where they were, bringing people so that way they can log in remotely, maybe having another tier of an AU attendee. So that way it's less expensive, they don't have to travel. So we expect next year to be more of a hybrid as opposed to turning off the virtual and just going solid back to in-person. Another question here about BIM Collaborate Pro. So question is, will it go into effect in January? And is it BIM 360 Design rebranded and added the clash detection? So those two things. So at the moment, what it is it's a separate thing. So easiest way to think of this is years ago when Collaboration for Revit came out, your files are stored on BIM 360 Team. And then when the new next generation came out, okay, well, if I want to take advantage of that, I'm going to be putting my files on Docs and using BIM 360 Design. So it was an evolution. I could stay where I was for a little while until I needed to be on a newer version, or I could move right away to the next generation tools. That's going to be similar here. So if you already have your projects on BIM 360 Design, they're on Docs. The project is a long-term project or it's close to finishing. You don't have to move anywhere. While it's expected that all these tools will be available early next year, and by early, I'm not sure exactly. I don't believe January, but first quarter. You don't have to jump to the new one. It's going to be an option. So eventually, similar to how things were with Team, where anything after like 2018.2 or 18.3, you had to move to Docs. I imagine that there will be a point where you have to shift, but it's not going to force you into anything. We don't have any information that we can give out in terms of the price, but if you, just like before, if I owned Teams, I was automatically upgraded to Docs. If you already own BIM 360 Design, you will have access to to Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro. It's going to take me a few days more to get the names locked in. But yeah, if you already own it, you have access to the new tools already when they are released. Good questions. Any other questions? All right. Again, we have more webinars coming up in the near future. If anybody has suggestions for webinars, it's like, hey, I love these, they're giving me information, but I'd really love it if you touched on this. Always feel free to reach out to us and let us know. We want to make sure we're delivering content that you like. If you have any questions, reach out to us at our Microdesk sales support email, call us up the 1-800 number, or just hit us up on social media. We'll be glad to chat and help out however we can. Outside of that, everybody have a very safe and happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy it as best as you can and stay healthy. Take care, everybody, and thank you very much for your time.